Well, we know Roch Kubatko has been covering this like a blanket on MASNsports.com School of Rock. Roch, your thoughts on what you're hearing right now? What is the latest that you've heard about Yovani Gallardo?
Well, the sides are still talking. Things definitely heated up today. I'm not going to say they're close to an agreement, but they're certainly closer than they've been, I think, at any point. And it is, looking at a 3-year deal. His side obviously wants the opt-out, which the Orioles still don't want to do, and I heard that from somebody else earlier today that said we don't do opt-out. So I don't know whether that could end up being a deal breaker. It's certainly being discussed, though. And you guys touched on the pros and cons. I mean, I'm hearing it from both sides where people think that he's not worth giving up that 14th pick, and they're concerned about the slight drop in velocity. The strikeouts per 9 innings have gone down over the last 4 seasons. But I'm looking at a guy, and his whip went up from 1.295 to 1.416, and as you talked about, was not really strong in the second half. But then he has made 30 starts in 7 consecutive years, 30 or more. Guy's got a 3.66 ERA over 9 major league seasons. He is an upgrade of what we're looking at right now on paper, certainly. And with the Orioles, he slots at or near the top of the rotation, whereas from other teams he might be more of a middle-of-the-rotation guy or lower. So he probably does have more value for them than he does other teams. So, their philosophy did change again. It looked like, a couple weeks ago they still were determined not to give up that pick. Now not only are they willing to do that, but I heard there's been at least some talk about Dexter Fowler as well, who would cost them, it's currently the 29th pick. I believe it would drop down to 28th if they sign Gallardo. But either way, they could do a Jimenez Cruz type thing in 2014 and give up the first 2 picks. There's actually even been talk about that. So very interesting how things have changed here over the last week or so.
Roch, why do you think teams have stayed away from Gallardo this long?
It could be in part because of the concerns we talked about. And, he was looking for a 4 or 5-year deal earlier. And also teams that were in the running for him ended up signing other pitchers and suddenly dropped out of it. They know, I don't know if like the Astros, let's say, were an example. They get Fister, they say, fine, we've got somebody cheaper, and we're set now in the rotation. That's probably true of other teams. The longer we stay on the market, the more teams went out and looked elsewhere. The Orioles tried doing that, weren't able to do it, don't really have the pieces to go ahead and make a trade to bring in a starter from which whoever would be available. And you look at what's out there now, and it's mostly these 1-year bounce-back type guys. And they vowed that they were going to upgrade the rotation. So, again, I think it's more important. He's more important to them than he may be for other teams. And, again, now that they're willing to part with that 14th overall pick, and they most definitely are in the right deal, suddenly they're more than just in play. I mean, they're clearly the favorites right now to sign them.
Roch, when you look at this whole thing coming down, and I understand you're on your way to the gym, you're probably on speakerphone right now doing bicep curls and all that stuff. We got all that, but so you're
that was earlier today.
Oh, very talented, and your speakerphone sounds great. But look, when you mentioned all these different things, and we talked about some of the pros and the cons, but I think this would be a great situation if they only have to go 3 years, and for a guy who, as you said, slots in the Orioles rotation very close to the top. I mean, do you think that's why the Orioles are in play now, because it's not that 4 or 5 or 6 year deal that he's looking for?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. And, that's true of some other guys, too. The prices suddenly came down. Fowler's price seems to be coming down as well. The longer you wait and the closer you get to pitchers and catchers reporting, it's funny how many deals you can get done, and maybe some get done after players report. But, yeah, exactly. The prices come down. And I guess you could see the counter argument. If you're going to give up the 14th overall pick, wouldn't you want them under control for longer? But in this case, the Orioles are only going to spend so much and give so many years to this guy. And if they think now they can do it, they're more comfortable giving up that pick. I mean, clearly after keeping 3 of their big 4 free agents, signing Kim, acquiring Trumbo, I mean, now they want to go ahead and add this piece here. I mean, they're trying to go ahead and go for it and get back into the playoffs this season. And this is the way they feel to do it. And also, if you sign this guy, it certainly makes your AAA rotation look a lot better. If you're going to go ahead and, and I'm going to have to pronounce his name, the Cuban pitcher from the Padres.
Espana.
There we go. And Mike Wright and Tyler Wilson and whoever else, Chris Jones or whoever else you want to go ahead and slot in there. Suddenly it's a deeper rotation, which is what they also remember. They wanted to improve their depth as well as find a replacement for Wei and Chen.
To clarify, Roch, is there a possibility then that the Orioles can end up with Yovani Gallardo for the rotation and Dexter Fowler for the outfield, or is it an either-or type situation?
No, I think it's definitely more in play now than it was before. I mean, it's definitely at least been discussed. It's been recommended by some people in the organization. I'm not saying everybody's in agreement, but there are some people that say, you know what, let's go ahead and do that. If you are going to give up that first pick, then you may as well go ahead and give up the other one as well now if you can get a good deal on Fowler. I talked to someone today who thought that Fowler was actually more important to the Orioles than Gallardo, even though they've got that hole in the rotation. They did vow to upgrade the rotation, and despite the fact that the rotation is the primary reason why they finished 500, that they still feel like, you know, this person felt like you put him in right field, you solved that problem there. He could be your leadoff hitter, and he actually has more value, and there's a chance you could get him again for only maybe a couple seasons instead of what he was looking for previously. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they end up signing both of these guys now. Again, a drastic shift to where they were leaning previously when we were hearing about 6 of the first 91 picks and how, you know, they need to stockpile the system with arms now, preferably college arms. Now, all of a sudden, you could look at it where they could give up 2 of these picks.
Roch, when you look back at what the Orioles did a couple of years ago, bringing in Ubaldo on a 4-year, $50 million package, do you think they might have some apprehension about Gallardo, knowing the production that they've gotten so far in the first 2 years from Jimenez?
Well, they're not going to give him 4 or 5 years, so I don't think that's as big an issue. But yeah, I mean, you know, that was unusual for them. That was a record contract for a free agent pitcher outside the organization, and certainly there have been mixed results so far. The Jimenez, these last 2 years could end up looking like a bargain if he pitches well, what he's owed now and the way the market has changed since even a couple seasons ago. But yeah, I'm sure that that's been an issue where it's kind of been like, see what happens when you go 4 years or more for a starting pitcher. But again, it doesn't appear that they would have to do that to get Gallardo.
Roch, just explain once again the pros and cons of an opt-out clause in this situation. Even though the Orioles aren't interested, don't want to do that, you say that is a possibility?
No, I mean, to this point, I know that's what they're looking for. The Orioles, I mean, it's being discussed clearly. It's probably one of the holdups of the deal. And I was told earlier today, you know, we still don't do opt-outs. Now, again, that could end up changing, but that would also be a drastic reversal because Dan Duquette has stressed over and over, including at FanFest, that he doesn't believe in it. He just feels like there's no advantage for the team. If the player performs well, you lose them, and if you don't, you're the one, you still got him for the rest of the contract. It's not like they're giving back the money for pitching poorly or playing poorly. So how does this benefit the team at all? Unless you're a team like the Marlins that like to make a splashy move and then want to get out from under the contract after a year. But the Orioles just don't see, up to this point at least, how that benefits them at all. That would be an even more drastic change and probably giving up the 14th overall pick if they suddenly included an opt-out. But clearly that's what his camp wants, and that's what's being discussed.
How about this whole thing with Dexter Fowler entering into the picture now, just since we started? Is there more of a priority for Fowler, as you were talking about a few moments ago, or is it more of a priority for Gallardo as the team looks at it overall?
I mean, it depends who you talk to. I think the majority of people think that the starting pitcher is more important, but there are some people that think that, you know, Fowler would fill a bigger need at this point, and you'd get more for him right now. More production and be more useful as an everyday player who, again, could be your right fielder. They'd have to switch positions and perhaps be your leadoff hitter and be an on-base guy for you. They feel like there's, and, you know, has some speed, but that's actually filling a bigger need. It really, I think you'll find more people to say, though, again, the rotation was the biggest problem this past off season. And if you look at the in-house candidates, you know, you're comfortable with Vance Worley or a Mike Wright or a Tyler Wilson. You're kind of rolling the dice. Meanwhile, if I'm Vance Worley, just signed for $2.6 million, I'm probably thinking, okay, how is this impacting me? Because they're trying to sign another starter, and they did just get Dale Thayer in a minor league deal with a spring invite. It was with the Padres as a veteran right-hander for the bullpen, and they've been looking at another reliever. It looks like he could get squeezed out of here.
Well, Roch, as always, we appreciate the information. We'll look forward to chatting with you this Saturday from noon till 2 on Wall-to-Wall Baseball. But in addition to that, just advise the fans to check you out every moment for the latest news on the Orioles.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Roch Kubatko from MASNsports.com, School of Rock, covering the Orioles like a blanket, and does a fabulous job doing that.